Hey, what's up? My name is Luke, and today I'm super excited because I just got some new boots from Parkhurst in the mail. Now I'm really excited about this because I've never owned Parkhurst before, mainly because I have a double E width foot. Parkhurst historically has not offered double E widths, at least to my knowledge. So I just happened to be on the website about a week ago, saw randomly that they had a wide width model in their Allen boot, which is the plain toe version. So I reached out to Parkhurst, I talked to Andrew, the owner, told him I'm a 10 double E on the Brannock. He recommended a 9.5 double E in these Allen boots. So today I'm just going to unbox them, do some initial impressions, and then fingers crossed if they fit, I'll do some on feet. So without any further ado, here we go. These are really nice. I'm a sucker for a plain toe service boot, and I just really like the silhouette, the styling. This is just super clean, in my opinion. So the upper is what Parkhurst calls brown smooth. It's a combination chrome and vegetable tan bovine leather from Lafarque. Now I think Lafarque tans all the leathers for Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, but this is a hot stuffed leather with natural oils, fats, and waxes, mainly to help with water resistance. It just makes for easy cleaning and conditioning, according to Parkhurst. And they say that some might find this leather to be quite similar to Chrome Excel due to similarities in the tanning process. And I definitely agree with that. At first touch, it's oily, it's waxy, it almost feels wet and does not need to be conditioned anytime soon. So let me pull the other boot out and then I'll talk a little bit more about the construction. Now that I have the other boot out of the box, I wanted to bring them into some indirect natural sunlight so you can see how the leather looked there. But in terms of the construction, Goodyear welted, we've got cork filler, steel shank. There is a lining, but it's only in the vamp and the toe box area. The shaft is unlined. I personally like that. I've found that my boots that are unlined can form around my ankle quite a bit better. Totally subjective, but I just really like that decision by Parkhurst in this case. The insole is veg tan leather. Hardware, we've got 5 eyelets, 3 speed hooks, all antique brass. The welt, it's a split welt, also veg tan leather, and it's got some decorative wheeling on top of the stitches, which I quite like. Again, that's subjective. And I did count, there are 5 stitches per inch here. It's not something I put any stake into, but I figured I would just mention it. The midsole is also veg tan leather. The sole and the heel is a proprietary rubber lug sole. The Parkhurst rubber is firmer to the touch and quite a bit lighter on foot. So I'm curious to see how that breaks in and how that feels as I walk, but I think it's very practical. The heel stack itself is also veg tan leather. The heel counter is veg tan leather. Now this does have a structured toe and I suspect it's probably just like a celastic toe of sorts. It doesn't say on Parkhurst's website what that makeup actually is, but in all, this is a very well-constructed boot. It's using good materials, natural materials. It doesn't have any pour on. There's no foams in here. I'd say the only thing that's not a natural material is going to be the sole. And if I'm right about the toe structure being celastic, that's about it, but that's very common. I wanted to do one more shot in direct sunlight because although these boots are brown and they're marketed as smooth brown, there are a ton of red undertones that come out with direct sunlight. I just think these look amazing. And granted, these are a tool. They're something you put on your feet. This is also a work of art. I think Lafarque did a great job with this leather. I'm really pleased with how that looks. So I tried these on and I'm pleased to say that they fit and they fit very well. So I'm definitely gonna be keeping these. I wanna run through a list of pros and cons here in a second, but I did wanna talk a little bit about Parkhurst and the experience I've had thus far. I reached out to Parkhurst and I got my email back in terms of sizing from Andrew, who's the owner. And I learned through that process that he is a one-man shop, basically. He outsources the production mainly to Spain, but my understanding is when everything gets shipped back, and I think he does a lot of the finishing and packaging in his warehouse by himself. So talk about a small operation, and the fact that he was able to give me such a white glove experience in the sizing process really helped solidify Parkhurst for me as a brand that I really like. Now, unfortunately, he did say through my exchange with him that producing wide width boots for his business is just not economically viable. He dumped a lot of capital into developing a wide last and producing wide boots, and he said that he's just had a lot of difficulty selling them. And that's really disappointing to hear from me as someone with a double E width who also has a low instep. Knowing that I'm not necessarily in that bell curve for your average foot, I look at a competitor like Grant Stone as an example, who makes E width and triple E widths in their lace-up boots, similar price point. But for someone like me, where I kind of fall in between widths, I haven't been able to find the most ideal size within Grant Stone as a brand. So knowing that he had a double E width boot, to me was a good indication to say that, hey, maybe Parkhurst, because they fall in this kind of smart casual, business casual type of design, this could be kind of a good opportunity for me to become a loyalist of this brand. So unfortunately, it is what it is. Maybe I'll get my hands on another wide pair of Parkhurst in the future, but for the time being, this could possibly be the one and only pair that I have. So I'm very grateful to have these, especially knowing that I really like the fit. So as I mentioned, I'm gonna go through the pros and cons here, and then we'll get the video wrapped up. Okay, hello. I'll start with the pros, and number one, just the general design. I just like how this boot looks. I mentioned earlier, I love a plain toe service boot, and just all the geometry, the proportions, the number of eyelets and speed hooks, and the silhouette, all those things combined, I think just makes a really nice looking boot. Something that's not overly formal, not overly rugged or casual, it just kind of sits in between, and it can kind of play in both places, right? So I could easily wear this to work. I work a desk job, but I could wear this with a t-shirt and a moto jacket and go to the brewery, get a beer with some friends. So in terms of versatility, I think this really hits the nail on the head. Next is quality materials. So I actually really love this upper. It is very much a chrome tanned, veg tanned combination, in the sense that it's got the sheen and kind of oiliness that a chrome tan leather would have, at least in my experience, but it's got a very firm temper. And so even though the shafts are unlined, it's going to be a very, I don't want to say arduous, but a very time-intensive break-in process. So I like that a lot, because to me, the more you invest in a break-in, likely the more comfortable they're going to be in the long run. All natural materials, combination tanned upper, every other leather component is veg tanned. So quality, 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 especially for the price at $378, I think that's great value. All right, so next is the clicking. So while I love Chrome Excel, I have fallen victim more often than not to the Chrome Excel lottery, where one boot has great creasing on the vamp area and the other boot is not so great. And there's nothing wrong with the leather, just aesthetically it's just not very pleasing. In this case, the grain break on both boots is extremely tight, and it's probably the best grain break of any boot I've ever had. So I am very pleased with that. For my own sanity, that's a huge, huge win. And then not just the vamp as well, but the quarters, everything seems to be cut from a really nice part of the hide. So I'm just really looking forward to seeing how these age, because I think they're gonna look good, and the creasing is gonna be pretty minimal, which is cool. Last, and by no means least, is the fit. So I've seen online that people love Parkhurst's 602 last, and with this wide version, I would imagine it's very similar to the D-width version, but this is really, really good for my foot. I have a double E forefoot, I have a low instep, I would say I have skinny ankles as well. And everything about this boot in terms of how secure I feel is, it's just there. I'm almost feeling the shank. It's like I have arch support as well, which is cool. I've never felt that in a flatter boot like this. But just the way that it fits, it's a bit tighter around the waist, so I feel like there's support in the middle part of my foot. It's just really good. And I know lasts and the feeling of lasts are very subjective, but this 602 wide last of the boots that I have in my rotation now, this is the best fitting one. So if it fits this well out of the box, I can only imagine how this is gonna feel when these are broken in. So that I really look forward to as well. Okay, so let's go into a couple of the cons. Now, I'm gonna be honest, there are some cons just out of the box, but there are not enough of them for me to want to return the boots. So starting off, the left boot has a crooked tongue. After further investigation, I think it's because the quarter panels were stitched a little crooked as well, and the result of that is a crooked tongue. Not super ideal. It's not the end of the world. When I lace up the boot, you can't really even see it. And when my jeans are hanging on the top of the boot, you can't see it either. So it's definitely a cosmetic thing. So to me, it's not a showstopper, but it is something that I have taken note of. So next is, I think because the quarters are sewn a little crooked, all of the eyelets and speed hooks are misaligned as well. Now this is on both the left and the right boot, but it seems to be more pronounced on the left. You can just kind of see the speed hooks are almost staggered by how off they are. And again, it doesn't affect how they fit or how they feel. It's simply just an aesthetic thing. So, again, it's something to take note of. So in summary, awesome boots. Love how they look. The fit and finish for the most part is great. The fit is great. I really look forward to wearing these. I think what I'll do is maybe a 6-month update just to kind of show how they've worn in, how they've gotten scuffed up and just patinated over time. So I'm gonna be wearing these quite a bit. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If Parkhurst is a brand that you love, I'm totally on board now that I actually have these boots in hand and on feet. And if it's a brand that you've looked at, I would say that they definitely give Grandstone a run for their money. One major differentiator in my experience with Parkhurst, just in the very short time that I've had these boots, is the customer service that you get from Andrew is hands down the best I've had. And what's crazy to me is that he's a one-man show. He answered my emails incredibly quickly. His responses were thorough and very well articulated with what he was trying to communicate. So what I'll say is, although Andrew doesn't have plans to release a lot of wide shoes in the future, if and when they do, I will definitely jump on them because I'm just really impressed so far. So more long-term updates to come, but hope you enjoyed the video. Take care. Peace.